All right, peeps, we're back. Another short video for you today. I want to talk about artsy girls. Artsy girls. So, if you're like a more intellectually minded guy, if you're, an intelligent guy and you're not really interested in a lot of regular girls, they're kind of vapid, they're kind of stupid, right? Just very simple. And what these guys very end up finding out very often is that when they meet a girl who's more artistic and she's maybe got a bit of an intellectual streak herself, they start to get really fixated on her. They think this girl is deep. This is a girl who I really want to be with. And you see a lot of like artistic, coldy artistic films play off this kind of stuff. This sort of deep, artsy girl who is different than other girls, and guys get really hooked on them. And there's usually, in kind of dynamics with these girls, there's like a big banter that happens. There's a banter between the two of them, and they're sort of testing each other. They're testing each other, like, you know, the guys sort of calling her out on various habits and patterns, and the girl's like, "Wow, I can't believe you noticed that about me." And then maybe she tries to get a read of the guy too, and it's this fencing game between the two of them. And these girls are really dangerous. They're dangerous. The difficult thing is that if you're dealing with girl game with a regular girl, the game is usually around her flaking, right? Or her or she like loves bombs you, tries to be the perfect girl, and that's how you get invested in her. But with artsy girls, one of the things that they will do is they'll draw you in by making you feel as if you're one of the only guys who understands her. You understand this? So while most girl game is about validating the guy and about giving him things that he wants, this sort of artsy girl, intellectual girl game is more about you understand her on a level that most guys don't. So what she's doing is she's validating what tends to be more of an intellectual guy. She's validating his mind, his perception, his ability to read people. She validates that. And so the guy gets really convinced that the two of them have something extremely unique. No other woman that he can remember seeing was able to engage with him on such a level. And so he thinks that this girl has got to be hooked on him. But then the problem starts that for whatever reason, she can't meet up. I had this with a client recently, and they had this banter back and forth, but, she had to leave, and she just couldn't find the time to meet up. And he was, wondering what he did to mess it up. And I was like, well, ultimately you didn't really mess it up, because you just got gamed, right? She didn't have any intention of actually meeting up with you. She was just getting validation out of your level of investment in her. And so she was making you feel like you were some real incredible guy because you were the only one who really got her and was able to engage with these things. So how do you deal with this kind of game when you have this artsy girl game, super intelligent girl? I say artsy girl, but it really is like, it is artsy, but it's also kind of intellectual. It's just this very intelligent, free-spirited woman. How are you supposed to deal with that kind of girl? Well, the reality is that they're difficult to capture, and it is very much them making a choice whether to be with you or not. But one of the most important things here is that you don't fall into the trap of of pursuing and getting tied up in the validation. So basically, one of the things I told my client in this situation was when she was being difficult about trying to get out and making excuses, the move would have been to trap her and say, well, you're like, to tell her that she's the kind of girl who won't show up for a date, and the cold read her but give a big push. It's like, yeah, but you're the kind of girl who does this stuff. You just play games. You love this banter and you like to pretend that you're really invested in stuff, but the reality is that you're not actually serious enough. You're too afraid to actually go and meet a guy on a date and actually get involved. And the reason that that's powerful is twofold. The first reason is that it is actually calling out what's going on. The thing is, when you start to read elements of her personality and you start to perceive little things of her personality, she traps you further because she says, wow, that's so crazy. And then she pulls back a bit. And so you get more invested because you think that you got something. So it's kind of like she pulls you in more and more and keeps withdrawing, but making you feel like if you can find that next piece out against her. But she's controlling the frame of the battle, so to speak, the battle. But if you can call her out on the game of like pulling back, it's like, yeah, you're doing this stuff just to like, I know this kind of girl game. Well, she could try to do the same thing with you again, and say that, oh well, wow, like you think that you have me figured out or whatever. But ultimately you did hit the nail on the head, and what you have to do is you have to stop trying to pursue and find out more about her. It's kind of like you don't find there to be anything really interesting about her at that point. You figured her out, and so now she's left in the position where she has to try to come towards you if she wants to keep the game going. But the most important thing here is that you've trapped her positionally, because if she doesn't meet up with you, then you actually did figure her out. But if she's kind of put in a position where she has to prove you wrong by going and showing up. Now, I do want to emphasize that these girls can seem really sexy, and in a lot of more artistic films, this is very often portrayed by French girls. French girls are very good at this kind of stuff generally, by the way. Russian girls, really, I mean, if I'm being honest here, it's a very big thing with European women. European women tend to have more of this ability to integrate intelligence and feminine game. I dated some Russian girls who would do similar stuff like this. Russia and France, I think, are two closest examples to it. But any country, of course, can do it. They can have a girl who does this stuff. So the most important thing here is when you're dealing with a girl like this, understand that she's trapping you, and that even though you feel like you're figuring her out, really she wants you to feel as if you're figuring her out. She like this sort of back and forth banter. You feel like because you can keep up with her that you're getting her, but actually what she's doing is she's luring you into this dynamic where you're heavily invested, and she can just simply disappear if she wants to. So you have to call out the overall dynamic. You can't just, parry her tactically, because part of her strategy is to lose tactically. So that's the main point here. Are the girls worth it? They can be really sexy. I'm not going to lie. They're intelligent girls. They're dangerous girls. They're some of the most difficult girls to deal with, because they're the kind of girls that just when you feel like you start to, it's like games within games within games. Just when you feel like maybe you've gotten her to surrender, then she disappears and goes. This is like a Bond girl, it's like a Bond girl. And these girls usually have some kind of secret that stops them from really being able to go the full distance. So is it worth it? It's worth it maybe for the experience, but understand what you're dealing with at all times. I've always said to clients, I don't care if you date this kind of girl, if you date that kind of girl. What's important is just that you understand what kind of girl you're dealing with. You don't project a fantasy onto her that she's something that she isn't, because then you're lying to yourself. You're not learning. But if you do understand who you're dealing with, even if you want to play that game for a period of time, it can actually help you to move through the game. So that's Artsy Girl Game, Artsy Girls and their games. And by the way, if you first off like this video, hit subscribe, comment. If you have any questions, I'll go and answer them. But also make sure you guys buy the masterclass. I go into girl game and I go into female psychology for hours in the masterclass. You also get in the masterclass, you get access to seasonal life Q&As. And you get access to a private group. And if you want the full thing, you can also fill out an application. The links are below in the description. You can work with me one-on-one. We'll go very, very deep. And if you have me in your corner, if you're dealing with girls, these dangerous women, I'll be able to pick them out immediately and help you to check your blind spots. All right? I'll see you guys in the next one.